Page 109. Today we're going to study halachot in regard to netilat yadayim, to washing hands. Also, we're going to discuss a lot of halachot in conjunction to using water or liquid, from Hilchot Tumah Tahara, the law of purity or impurity, and then we're going to the second part of the page, and hopefully times allow, we'll go to the many halachot in regards to different type of food. Some of them very much relate to Hilchot Shabbat. Shulchan Aruch Or HaChaim, chapter 4, dealing with Hilchot Netilat Yadayim, the way that we wash our hands. The rabbi tells us that there is a certain impurity have on the hands while a person in the state of sleep. If you notice, those of you familiar with other religion and cultures, they many of them talk about a certain state of impurity during the nighttime. The rabbi come up with the idea that it's a derivative from a biblical precept to wash the hand 3 times in each hand, and then go ahead and dress up and prepare ourselves for the day. The idea of washing hands and removing some spiritual impurity from us, it's a very deeply rooted in the Jewish law. Not only in the code, as we said in Or HaChaim chapter 4, but also, as another example, if you go to the great Ben Ish Chai, one of the greatest Sephardic rabbis, in his book dealing with halachot, Shana Shniya Parashat Metzora, which is a section of the second year in that book, he has this long section in regards to washing hands, not only for the morning, but also before eating food. So here, 2 lines from the top of the page, Tanya Rabbi Natan Omer, Bat chorin izo umakpedet ad sheyarchotz yadav 3 פעמים. This is a little bit more allegorical or metaphorical statement, which is there is a spirit, and in that sense is a evil spirit, but that quote-unquote segment of evil spirit, which again is just anthropomorphic, it's a human language, is in a state of freedom, that traveling around the person's body, and it's not going to depart it, Rabbi Natan said, from a person's body for a long time if he or she will not wash the hands upon waking up in the morning. So what he said here, following Rabbeinu Hananel, also Bnayahu ben Yehoyada and other books, they said that it's bat chorin. Bat chorin meaning it's a free, if they have a freedom, that the spirit, it's a liberated entity. This evil spirit that rests on one's hands before they're washed in the morning, and she refuses to leave until one washes his hand 3 times. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, in conjunction to that, Rabbi Yochanan said, Puch ma'avir bat melech uposek et adima marbe se'ar ba'af apayim. So there is an eyeshadow that placed in the eye. So he said that it's a good outcome for that. It needed, because it causes the evil spirit to, it's called daughter of the king, is just again metaphorical statement, to pass and stop tears and causes eyelashes to grow, etc. There are some explanation, for example, the Tosfot or the Ritva in Tractate Yomi, page 77, they explain that bat chorin, it's just safa she'ula, it's a different language of using, like we discussed today in the book of Tanya, the definition of bat kohen. So it's the same thing, that is a shem mush'al, it's just a definition of something when we want to describe something very abstract, thank you. תניא נמי אחי רבי יוסי אומר פוך מעביר בת מלך ופוסק את הדמם הרבה שערה ואף מים. אוקיי, Now we are speaking about several things that help for the healing of the eyes. ואמר מר עוקבא אמר שמואל, עלים אין בהם משום רפואה. He said leaves that are placed on the eye, that was Rabbeinu Hananel said, contain no element of healing. So therefore one may place them on his eyes on Shabbat. Rashi said it is the name of herb. But anyway, the Tosfot, also the Ramban and Rashba, they have a different view what's exactly involved with this, if that is a prohibition of using medicine on Shabbat or not. But is that something that the person does for his pleasure to put on his eye, or it's l'shem refuah for the purpose of healing? Amar Rav Yosef, kuzbarta en ba mishum refuah. Rav Yosef said that coriander contains no elements of healing. Amar Rav Sheshet, kshut en ba mishum refuah. Rashi said that it's kshut is a few different ways, but here they use the word hopes. It's contains no element. Yeah. What? Hops. Thank you. Contains no element of healing. Amar Rav Yosef, kuz barda afilu ledidi kasheli. As you know from the different Talmudic sources, Rav Yosef and Rav Sheshet, they are both unfortunately blind people. So Rav Yosef said, even for me who is blind, coriander is harmful.
Yeah, coriander.
Coriander, yes. So he just want to make a statement. Rav Sheshet said, Amar Rav Sheshet gargira afilu lidi mehani. He says, me'ali. He says, argula even for me, despite my blindness, is beneficial. So Rabbeinu Hananel, Rav Nisim Gaon said that it's harmful for Rav Yosef Kuzbara. So what is all about? Why Rav Yosef needs to tell us that this is Tosfot also asked this question, and he said that it most probably create some good feeling. You know what type of, sometimes people take supplements or all kind of medicine that it's harmful for them, yet they bring him some pleasure for a certain time. So that's one of the things that Rav Yosef wants to emphasize, that they think that people put it in order to heal their eyes. And since he was blind, he said that it's not only not healing people, but also created a potential for harm to those people. That's also the Maharsha view. ואמר מר עוקבא אמר שמואל, כל מיני קשות שרו לבר מתרוזה. Mar Ukva said, in the name of Shmuel, all type of herbs may be eaten on Shabbat except for truza, because truza was used for the purpose of medical needs. Again, those years, Rabbeinu Hananel wasn't so clear about truza, what it's all about. But anyway, Rashi hold that it's these type of things that they use it for medicine purposes. Amar Rav Chizda, Shrika Tavya Shari Piapuei Bei Asu. He said that is a beneficial, that's the Geonim said, for the intestines. So they may be stained and drunk on Shabbat, but the juice of a Piapuei Bei, which is taking a soft eggs on Shabbat
and whisking.
And whisking there, it's forbidden. Because you basically, in order to put it on the, Rashba said that it's some type of vegetable. So either for the purpose of drinking or to add it, the Meiri said, to put it as part of either medicine or part of the cooking product. Devithu de Zeire Avdare Lechia Bar Ashi velo achal. The wife of Zeire, she made it for Chia Bar Ashi. Either Rav Nisim Gaon said that she was the wife of Zeiri, that she was married to the student of Chia Bar Ashi, and Chia Bar Ashi was the student of Zeiri. That's the GEMARA said in Yoma 77. So she put a egg that combined with oil on that roasted product on Shabbat, and she served him, and he didn't eat it because he hold that it's forbidden on Shabbat. The Ramban have a big issue. What's the problem if b'diavad a person did it? But again, the Rif and the Sfat Emet have a lot to explain what's involved here, what exactly he objected. Amra le lerabach havet le ve'achal v'at lo achela. Oi, she said, I made it to the area, to your Rebbe, and he ate, and you don't eat. You know what's remind me? One time, it's a famous story. A fellow walked in to one of those falafel and shawarma and all these Middle Eastern food centers. And he asked the fellow behind the counter, is any ashgacha, is anything show that it's kosher? So he said to him, don't you see all these, rabbis' pictures, not certificates, pictures of all these rabbis around the walls here. So the guy looked at him and said, well, if one of them was standing behind the counters and your picture is on the wall, then I'll buy it. Other than that, if I don't see a certificate, I'm not going to buy it.
Very funny.
So she said to him, Lerabach, to the area I made it, and he ate, and why, how come you, his disciples, you don't eat it? So they said, the reason, Ze'ir letame, Ze'ir has a reason, the Amar Ze'ire noten Adam yain tzalul, umayim tzlulim letoch ha'meshameret b'Shabbat. Ze'ire said that one can take, place a clear wine and a clear water into a strainer used to strain dregs from wine on Shabbat. It's like mesanenet, without concern. Ve'ino choshesh. One of the melachot, one of the labors on Shabbat is called meshamer. Says that you should not concern about it. Why? Alma, it means that the Iri hold Keivan de mishtati achi, because a person can drink the wine or the water in such a way without sinun, without straining it. So lav midei kavid, it's considering like he doesn't do anything wrong, any type of strainering. Hachanami is also when she put it on the top of the roaster food. Kevan de mitchila hachi. So since the melon juice it's consumed this way without being strained and for non-medical purposes, lav midei kavid, one is doing nothing and therefore it's allowed. So that's the hold of Ze'iri, that he hold to put that on the top of this roaster product on Shabbat, or you can say that's also a melon juice, but Chia Bar Ashi disagree with him in those two locations. Ve'amar Mar Ukva, we continue in halachot refuah, in the law of using medicine on Shabbat. Mi shenigfa yado raglo tzomta beyayin. Again, all these type of medicines, it's the way that they did it in the ancient time. So it's important to know that those type of medicine, and soon you're going to see many more. It's one of the things that we should be aware that yes, it's a very good idea to have this type of medicine. In the next Mishnah you see it as well. But we should know that the rabbi said that those medicine, in a sense, are unapplicable to our times. No one should use this formula that was applicable in 1800 years ago to our times. There is a lot of discussion among the rabbis. It's one of the extreme is a book called Yam Shel Shlomo. He said on a Tractate Chulim, he said that one who does this type of medicine, we should put him under the nidui, which means that it's not something that we should do in a practical manner. But again, in those days they used it. So they said one whose hand or foot was wounded may immerse it in wine on Shabbat to stop the flow of the blood. And they said, Rashi explained that when you combine it with wine, the skin, let's say, mitkavets, it's constricted, and those small vein that was black created the blood to stop, and because it's not considering refuah gmura, a complete type of medicine. Ibayalu chala mai. So they ask him, how about with vinegar? What is the ruling?
Vinegar is more astringent than wine. Wine is not that effective.
Yes,
it says here.
What you're saying is the Ran said, Rabbeinu Nissim said. So they said, Amar Rav Hillel Rav Ashi, ki avina brei Rav Kahana amrei. When we are in the yeshiva, in the house of study of Rav Kahana, they said chala lo. To use that type of vinegar is not permitted, as they consider actual medicine. It's very strong. Amarava, that's exactly what you said, and that's the reason. Amarava behanei bnei mechoza, and the people who live in mechoza, that was a place that the people are very fastidious. Kevan de mefanke, that these people are spoiled, right? They are very delicate people. Afilu chamra nami maselu, even wine heals them. Because they have this type of spoiled body,
sensitive skin.
So consequently, one may not immerse the wound in wine in those places. Ravina ikla levei Rav Ashi. Ravina happened to come to the house of Rav Ashi. The chazye didricha lechamara agaba dechare v'yativ katzamit lebechala. He saw that the donkey stepped on the back of Rav Ashi's foot, and Rav Ashi sat and immersed his foot in vinegar on Shabbat. Amar le lo sabar amar le'ad amar Rav Hillel chala lo. That's what Rav Hillel said, that you should not use vinegar for that purpose. Amar le gavayad v'gavaregel shani. He said to him that the back of the hand and the back of the foot are different because their wound are dangerous. That's what the Meiri said. And the Shulchan Aruch Orachaim Shin Kafchet 328 explained that really that's really different, because it's much serious, and you're allowed to desecrate Shabbat in order to do it. It's like endangering the body.
It's a form of pikuach nefesh.
Yes. Yeah? It's a famous Gemara in Avodah Zarah, page 28a, that explain it. Ika de amrei chazye de katzamit le bechamra. Or he saw it that Rav Ashi immerses food in wine. So amar le lo savar amar le'ad amar Rava amar Rava ane bnei mechoza kevan de mefkan ki afilu chamre namamasilu. So that's exactly what he said. The people in mechoza, even wine helped them. Umar nami ave mefanek. So you are also one of those people who spoiled, delicate. Amar lei, so he said, Rav Ashi responded, he said, Gavayad v'gavaregel shani, the back of the
foot and the back of the hand,
the foot are different. Amar Ravad amar matna amar Rav, gavayad v'gavaregel הרי כמכה של חלל ומחלין עליה את השבת. So the law is that if it's a fatal wound, so it's create a life-threatening situation. So you do even something that is forbidden. That's the famous Gemara in Avodah Zarah 12. That you do it, so what we derive from that this rabbinic prohibition of using any type of medicine on Shabbat, it's the type of decree, it's called shchikat samemanim, that you do all the preparation for these medical purposes. So the reason that you can use it, it's only if in a life-threatening situation, that can supersede even a biblical precept. That's according to most of the Rishonim, including Rabbeinu Hanan. Later, at the end of this shiur, Metz Hashem will go to practical halacha. You see how all of that has a lot of application. Tanu Rabbanan, in regards to medicine on Shabbat, Rochatzin b'mei gerar. If you remember in the Torah, in Book of Bereshit, chapter 10, and also the Chronicles, the first Chronicle, chapter 4, there is a place called Mei Gerar. So it's a name of a city. So they said on Shabbat one may bathe in the therapeutic hot springs of the water of the Grar, B'mei Chamtan, B'mei Asla, U'b'mei Tveria. This is the different places to this very day, by the way. You have in Tiberias a place that Mevo Hamat and Tveria, that it's a place that you have a therapeutic hot spring of water. Not only in Coral Spring in Florida. You have other places,
on
right?
On the theme of medicine during Shabbat, how does this relate to today's Eretz Israel and this incredible resistance of when somebody gets ill or very ill in a very Orthodox neighborhood, and there is a Magen David Adom, something like that, and the residents resist, and they would stone the ambulance or not let any.
I don't think it's true.
It is not true anymore?
It's not true.
No.
If it's a life-threatening situation, the ambulance come in and do whatever they need to do. It's not true.
Oh.
They allow it. No, it's if needed, it needed. It's if you have women that need to deliver a baby, or if you have somebody wounded, show me where they allow. They're not allowed. I never heard that.
Oh.
אבל לא בים הגדול, but not in the Great Sea, which means that one may not bath in the Red Sea, namely here the Great Sea applied to what? To Mediterranean Sea. The truth is that the Mishnah Brura in the 228 have another version. He said it may be Mediterranean, but it's also, he said that maybe it's the water that covered the whole world, the big ocean around the world. But anyway, ולא במי משרה ולא בימה של סדום, and not in the water in which flax was soaked, nor in the sea of Sodom, because people bathe in those bodies of water only for medical purposes. So that's what Rashi said. So therefore we're not allowed to do it on Shabbat. ורמינו רוחצים במי טבריה ובים הגדול, אבל לא במי משרה ולא בימה של סדום, קשיא הים הגדול הים הגדול. We see a different brighter that said that you do allow it. So now you see that it's like difficult, because the first brighter said that it's prohibited, and the second one said that it's permitted. So they said, Amar Rabbi Yochanan lo kasha. It's not a question, Harab Meir or Rabbi Yehuda. Two different brightot go for two different great rabbis. Rabbi Meir is the first one that forbids it. Rabbi Yehuda is the second one that none. This is the Mishnah in Tractate Para, chapter 8, and also in Tractate Mikvaot, chapter 5. Kol hayamim kemikveh. He said that all the water, what?
All seas are like a mikveh.
Yes, all seas purify like mikveh, like ritual bath, which means they have the idea of mikveh, but they don't have the whole idea of spring water when it's come to purified zochalim. You know, one of the things that you need to have in order to make mikveh absolute kasher is the idea that the spring water are in a constant move. So people who have a semen discharge, or in those days you have people who have a lepers, or if you need to sanctify a meichatat and other thing that it's in a biblical time, so you have to do it in a spring water. So they said, as far as the halacha, it's very crucial to know that there's a difference between mikveh and a spring water, or some type of river. Mikveh, it's only make something kosher if it's called be'esh boran, which means that if all the water
constantly moving,
if all the water stand and unmoving, they're standing there, it's called be'esh boran. In spring ma'ayan, you purified even the water as zochalim, which means flowing.
Yeah.
Another thing, the Torah require maim chayim, which means in our language is like
living water.
Living water, which is the Torah said in, for example, when someone is a zav, is a discharge, the Torah said in the book of Vayikra in Leviticus 15 that all of this needs to have a maim chayim, like in the leper, like in the meichatat, which means pure water, maim zakim venovim, which means it's a pure water that are moving. So regular spring water, it's considering chayim, but water of mikveh, it's really depending nowadays. But basically, it's a standing water. There maybe have some pipes that create this movement. But again, so here this Tana hold that all these different water, for example, the oceans, like Mediterranean oceans, the Kinneret water, the Dead Sea, etc., they have a category of mikveh. So you hold that someone who's a tovel, who's ducking in that mikveh, hold only if it's ashboran state. But if the water are moving and coming outside, it's a question if it's another category of Maim Chaim or not. So he brings a source. He said Shene'emar. They said in the book of Bereshit, chapter 1, sentence 10, Ulemikveh Hamayim Kara Yamim, that the Almighty, when the God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the water, mikveh, he calls seas. God called them seas. So that's Divrei Rav Meir. So because the Torah used the word mikveh, so they have the mikveh, even the water are somehow zochalim, moving. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Yama Gadol kemikveh. Rabbi Yehuda said that only the Great Sea purifies like ritual bath. But all the others doesn't have this, because there are many seas in the Great Sea, not because all seas purify.
The Jordan River is not mentioned here at all. Is this also part of Maim Chaim? Or
it's a good question. How do you considering a Jordan River? It's coming from where, and where is they going to?
Well, it is coming all the way from Chazbani, Bani, and Banias and
they're going to?
Yam Kinneret, and then further south all the way to the Dead Sea.
So we just mentioned Yam Kinneret. Mm-hmm. We said again that if all this different water, it's a question. Some said that it's not considering a mikveh, because they don't have the category of zochalim. It's like ashboren, but not everyone agrees. There's a Rashi here, and there's others that not really happy with that statement.
But a river is a moving water by definition.
Yes, but think together with me. If you're talking about the Dead Sea, Dead Sea, it's all salty water, right?
Yes, very salty.
Correct. So someone who duck himself with that water, what category you call it? Zochalim or ashboran?
Ashboran, I would say. No?
Lichora, that's the way some rabbis hold, but ולא נאמר ימים, אלא שיש בו מיני ימים הרבה. There is a pasuk that said in the book of Ecclesiastic, כל הנחלים הולכים אל הים.
נכון.
So they said here, ולא נאמר ימים, so the verses say that the water, אלא, and only because there are many seas, whereas they have many ones. רבי יוסי אומר, כל הימים מתארים בזוחלים. All the water, including the great water, the great sea, even those water coming from one location to another, because the way that the big ocean is, that they have a lot of mifratzim and echalim, lot of places that those water coming to. So it's very unlikely that the Torah forbids for someone to duck in a mikveh in that type of water. ופסולים לזווים ולמצורעים ולקדש בהם מי חטאת. So they said, he hold, not it's not practical halacha yet, but he hold that this the seawater is invalid for purifying zavim, lepers, sanctifying purification water, to mix the ashes of the red heifer in the biblical time with it. So those he hold that require a spring water. Matkif la Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak strongly opposed this explanation, and he said 109b, אימו דפליגי לעניין טומאה וטהרה, לעניין שבת משמיע להו. He said, all these machloket, a disputation between Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda, in regard to the halacha of the Great Sea, it's only in regard to the tum'ah and tahara, law of purity. That's depending in Gzerat HaKatuv, in the Pasuk, and they had a different opinion how you take it. Le'inyan Shabbat, in regards to washing on Shabbat, that the reason it's because of medicine purposes. Misham atleu. Do you tell me that they are disagree with that? So it's possible that everyone agreed there is no difference between this different water, the same way that you're allowed to wash in other seawater in Shabbat, so the same way you allow in the Great Sea. So it means that everyone agrees that there is no differentiation between all different ocean and water. The same you're allowed to do it on Shabbat, so the same you allow even with a Great Sea. So you may say that what's the reason that the Torah some places say that you can't? Maybe because it's a salty water, etc. But other than that, this is the Ran school of thought, that why you differentiate if it's a spring water and it's a living water. So what's the Ela Amar Nachman B'Yitzchak Lo Kashya Hadi Ishtai Hadi Lo Ishtai. He said that the difference is it's not question because one did not remain in the water and thereby indicated that he bathed in the Mediterranean for non-medical purposes. The other it is how do you understand the second braita? The lo ishtai, if he's not in the water, only he wash and come out right away, you have a problem. Why? If you tell me that he wasn't for a long time in the water, afilu b'mei mishra nami. So you can go ahead and do even the water which flax was soaked. Because the Ran explained that the Sodom water, that one bride said that you allow, another bride said that you're forbidden, they said it's not a question that Tanya or Chatzim b'mei Tveria, that you learn that one bath in the water of Tiberias, ub'mei mishra, 1 second, ub'mei mishra, and the water which flax is soaked, וביימה של סדום, in the Sodom Sea, ואף על פי שיש לו חטאתים בראשו, and even though someone has a wounds on his head that are healed by bathing in those water, still you're allowed to do it. Why? במה דברים אמורים שלא נשתהה. We speak about someone who's not there, is like ducking and coming out right away. Okay? But אבל נשתהה אסור. But one who remained in the water, even it wasn't the issue of chatatim berosho, of something in his head, wound in his head. Just by being there, as long as he's intent to do it as a medical purposes, and that's the reason why he stayed for long, that's forbidden. Yes, yeah. Yosef.
In all this extensive discourse, the monthly feminine condition is not mentioned at all. How does the...
Because here we're speaking about, it's a good question, but here we're speaking about a law of Shabbat in conjunction to medical purposes.
Well, this could happen on Shabbat or any other day.
Correct, yeah. But we're not talking in that sense of the definition of mikveh. We are more focusing on Shabbat law in relationship to using it for medical purposes. In other words, our discussion is not so focusing on mikveh. For sure, in a sense, what?
Not focusing on purification.
But you mentioned the word zav, or discharge.
Correct. Well, I didn't speak about nida.
Oh, so this is a separate issue again?
In that sense, it's a separate issue. The definition of mikveh for nida, in our practical halacha, it's the same. But here we are not there yet. We're not speaking in nida, we're speaking about using it for medical purposes, for healing purposes, that it's an issue on Shabbat. The contradiction between the first braita and the second braita. One forbids to bath in the great ocean, and the other allow. It's not a question. Why? Ha beyafin shebo, ha bera'in shebo, which means there is a difference in the using the water. One is the pure water, which is the area in the Great Sea, which one bath for pleasure during the week. And the other one, it's not for pleasure, it's a polluted water, which people enter only for medicinal purposes, not the others. So the GEMARA continues, said, Mei Mishra nama lo keshka sha'arita lo itshai. The same applied to the water that flax was soaked. So again, the difference is in the definition, if a person stay for long or not. So in conclusion, in the water that it's a clean and beautiful and nice, like Mei Grar, Mei Hamatan, Mei Asya, Mei Tveria, all these different water, or the good area of the great ocean, you allow to bath with them and even to stay for long.
To linger for long time or short time, does it make any difference?
No, but water that it's a not polluted or bad water, for example, Sodom water, for example, flax with a soak and things like that, you allow only for short time, but not to stay for long. Again, the Shulchan Aruch Shin Kafchet, the 328, have a lot to say, Mishnah Brura, Halacha, etc. We'll do it at the end of this session with a practical Halacha. Mishnah. Now our Mishnah dealing again with a refuah, with a medicine. The sages forbids any type of refuah, any type of medicine on Shabbat. The only time they allow it if it's a life-threatening situation, of someone who's definitely terminally ill, etc. But the decree, it's shchikat samemanim, that the person start to do all the preparation of the medicine, and by the biblical law it's forbidden because it's called tochen, like a type of grinding. So since we discussed the previous Mishnah with the salty water on Shabbat, that it's not really a type of food, it's just make it for the embetter the food. So now Mishnah speak about in addition things that it's not really a food, and it's only for medicinal purposes. Ein ochlin izovyon. One may not eat izovyon on Shabbat. Izovyon, it's some type of ezov. In Hebrew you call it lavender. It's like the flower. I think in English too.
Lavender. Yes.
Lavender. So that's the Perusha Mishnayot said. Meiri hold that is a Greek, some type of herb. Soon the Gemara explain what's the purpose of using it. Lefi she'eno ma'achal bri'im, because healthy people do not eat it. So that anyone eating it, using it for what purpose?
Today it is known for a calming effect.
Medicinal purposes.
Yes.
Aval ochelu et yo'ezer, but the person can eat a plant, it's called yo'ezer, v'shoteh abarbuah. So later the Gemara explain what is this abarbuah is all about. Kol ha'ochalin ochel adam lerefuah, which means any type of food that the healthy people eats, allow also the sick person to eat, even the intent. The Rambam said, excuse me, Rabbeinu Vadim Betnura said that the purpose is for medicinal purposes. V'chol ha'mashkim shoteh, and all different liquid the person drink, chutz, excluding to what? Mimei dekalim, the water that from palm trees, v'chos shel ikarin, and kos shel ikarin in general is that ikarim is like roots. So they say that someone who drinks it has a potential to create impotency for himself, which means that they carry some dangerous. And basically there is a prohibition to make seirus for neither men nor animals. מפני שהן לירוקה, which means that it's not food for the, Rashi said, for the healthy people, אבל שותה ומי דקלים לצמאו, but one may drink a palm tree water on Shabbat in order...
Because it heals jaundice.
Okay,
Yeah.
but for his thirst, וסך שמן עיקרין שלא לרפואה. So Tosfot Yontom said that is an oil that one may smear an ikarin oil on himself. Nowadays they have so many oils that one of them, that's in ancient time, the Tosfot Yontom said that they use those oil to soften the skin or to bring some special odor to the body. So they use those liquid oil, and those days they knew that oil carry a special healing
Propensities.
yes,
qualities.
yeah, qualities. So therefore they allowed to do it because some regular healthy people use it sometimes. The Avets dealt with that the chapter 1 why exactly allowed. Again, this is something we said earlier. I just want to re-emphasize something very important. All this medicine formula that we're going to study from now, at the end of another 2 pages, we're going to study a different type of medicine in ancient time. It's important to know that we're talking so many years ago. We're talking about 1700 years ago, 1800 years ago. So Rashba tells us that even at the time of beginning of creation, it was like the Mishna said in Pirkei Avot, that God created the world. He brought within the world the healing, the different things that can create healings. The Garden of Eden, by the general definition, meaning that there are certain herbs, there are certain drugs, there are certain stones that some of them in a nature, some of them in a more not look like supernatural way. They have the ability to heal people. Now, the issue here is that a person who is not absolutely erudite with all the involvement with that. There is a beautiful Maharsha on Tractate Gittin, page 88. The Maharsha said that many of those medicinal formula that the sages brought, we don't have a clarity nowadays to know what's involved. There is a responsa from, it's called Chavot Yair, that explained in the responsa 233 and 4, that all those formula was in the time of the sages, but the nature of people and the world changed tremendously, and many medicines that was good in those days maybe are no longer applicable in our times. And also there are people who live in different temperature, different atmosphere, different way of eating, etc. So therefore, as we said in conclusion, since a person doesn't know, and the sages said that one of the fears is that if someone tried to put together that formula and he say, oh, it doesn't work, he may think, God forbid, that is a nonsensical statement here. So they all come up together that Rabbi Akiva Iger said in Yoredea, in Shil Lamed Vav, in 336, that we don't use it, and as we mentioned earlier from Yamshe Shlomo, that someone who does that, we should really put him in Idui, which means that we should really disregard that person, because we study it for the sake of study Torah, but no practical application, at least in a sense of a formula of medicine, that we derive from those ancient formula in the Talmud. With that in mind, the Gemara said, Amar Rav Yosef, Eizov abarta bar hamag, Izovyon arbarta bar hing. Rav Yosef said, unspecified a Ezov, it mentioned in the Torah, it's a abarta, but so it's a So they call it, the word abarta is derived from the Persian abar, which means that is some type of a, they call it thymes, but it's some type of Persian barhing or bar hamag. It's a different type of this species, although the exact definition is not clear. There are a few different ways they use here. Siach kotzani. So again, it's a Meiri have a different way, Rashi has a different way. There's a few ways to know it. But anyway, Ula amar marva chivara. Ula said that it's some type of hyssop mentioned in Torah. It's a white sage.
Hyssop.
Hyssop.
Yeah.
It's a white sage. Ula ikla levei Rav Shmuel bar Yehuda. Aitu lekame marva chivara. Went to that house, they give him that. Amar hainu exov di Torah. That's exactly what the Torah meant when you use the word ezov. Rav Papi Amar, it means shumshuk. Shumshuk is like in Arabic za'atar.
Very tasty. Even today it's used. Yes.
That's what he said. That's what ezov. Amar Rav Yudah Midifti, I heard once from one of my colleagues, a great rabbi in Jerusalem, that the ezov in the Torah is what you see in a kotel. Again, in the wall, in the western wall. I don't know if it's correct or incorrect. Anyway, Amar Rav Bia Midifti, Rav Yomi of Difti said, "Kvatei de Rav Papa Mistabra detnan." We think that go by the Rav Papi, which is the Za'atar that we learn in the Mishnah in Tractate Para, Mishnah 11, chapter 11, Mishnah 9. Mitzvat ezov. When the Torah said that when it's time to sprinkle those water for someone who's impure because he attached a dead corpse, shlosha klachim. You know, we just learned in the Parashat Bo, about the Paschal offering, the Passover offering that they sacrificed in Egypt. So the Torah used the word ulkachtem agudat ezov, that you should take branches of ezov. So aguda, in term, it has to be 3. So, and we learned the meichatat in the juxtaposition in Gzera Shava from the Passover offering. Ubahem shlosha give olim, and these have 3 stems, and he said veshomshuku.
One of them.
Yes, and the shomshok is the species that the mishtakacha that is found with that configuration of the 3 stems on each of these branches. Ulemai achlela, and why they eat it? Lekukani, for someone have an intestinal
worms.
Intestinal worms. B'mai achlelei, with whom they eat it? Bishvat tamrei ukamata, with 7 black dates. Mimai havya, how these worms come into bring to intestinal? Mikimcha de saare de halifa le 4 yomim. So someone eat barley flowers from a vessel that held the flour for 40 days since it's ground. So that's cause that type of diseases.
Rabbi, and here in the English version of the Schottenstein, it says it's defining it as marjoram, the herb. So
possible. Aval ochelu et yoezer. However, he may eat yoezer plants. Ma yoezer pontak. Yoezer, it said, is some vegetable note. They say it's like mint, some type. Lemai achlelei. What's the purpose that people eat in it? Le'arketa, God forbid, that they cure liver worms. B'mai achlelei, how they eat it? B'shvat tamrei chivrata, 7 white dates. Mimai havya, how this disease come to being? Me'umtza umaya liba derekana, with from eating empty stomach or raw meat. Umibisra shamna liba rekana, from the eating a fatty meat on the empty stomach.
Well, anyone who does it deserves it.
The past president of the United States announced that he stopped eating meat with all of this. Anyway, umibisra de Torah, you know what I'm talking about, right? Umibisra de Torah liba rekana, or from eating fatty meat on empty stomach. They give you a background why people get those diseases. From eating an ox meat on empty stomach. ומגירי דרוביה אליבא דרקניו משתמיה בתרי, or from eating nuts on empty stomach, and from eating fenugreek shoots on empty stomach and drinking water thereafter. Rambam in general said that drinking water after this type of meal is unhealthy. Drink water is very healthy, but after this type of food, it's not good for the digestive system. Ve'ilo livla tahle rivata. If one has a liverworms but does not have any potanak handy, so one is taking potanak and it's not help, he should swallow white cress. Another medicine, ve'ilo leitiv beta'anita ve'leitiv bisra shamna ve'lishde agumrei ve'lemitz gamra ve'ligma hala. So a person should sit in a fast mood, and he bring a fatty meat and he put it on those fire, and he should squeeze part of that meat and he should
suck on it.
Suck on it.
Oy vey.
We said earlier that we don't practice this. Say that it's not good because it's harmful to the liver. The fourth idea, ve'ilo laite gurda de asanita ve'girda me'ale letatay ve'lo mitatay le'ailay dilma nafka aide pume ve'lishlika beshichra be'shebave ulemachar niskeruni nekavim dadei. So they said, so a person should take a sawdust that was scraped from the shell on the thorn bush from the top to the bottom, and not from the bottom to the top. I look at your faces, and perhaps then the worms will come out through your mouth, and let one of them boil for scraping in beers at twilight, and the next day close his nostrils and drink it.
That's the only way he's going to drink it, is by closing his nostrils, I think.
And to put the icing on the cake, he should relieve himself onto the stripped part of the tree.
This came in the day, so they said, so the next day, the day they carried, he should release himself, as you said. Veshotina barbuara, and why may drink barbuara on Shabbat? Mara barbuara humtaraya, or mar humtaraya humta yahida. So they say that it's some type of roots that is like a stick, and other branches. Lemay avdela legiluya. So that the fear in those days, if you have open water, the fear is that the snake put his bite in that water, if it was open water. So if someone drink it, it's dangerous. So they did it in ancient time for some type of antibiotic for this type of sickness. Or ve'ila, if it's not healing, laite hamsha kelile, if it doesn't help, so he should let him take 5 roses and v'chamisha kosara de shicha, and 5 cups of beer, v'nishlom kirnu behade adade adekai ma'anapka v'nishtei, and he cooked them together until there is a quarter of liquid, and then drink it. Eimei derava chadavoi bar'ami avdali lehawa gavra had kelila v'chad kusta deshicha. So the mother of Rav Chadvoi Barami, she made a remedy for the certain man who drank exposed water suspected of having venom in it. So she took 1 rose and a cup of beer, and she boiled them, shalka ve'ashkita ve'shagra tanur ve'grafte ve'otiva levinta begav ve'nafa kehutza yarka. So she gave him to drink, and he lit in the oven and swapped out the coal and placed a brick inside it, and something appeared like a green leaf emerged, which means the vomit of the venom come out of him. Rav Avya amar revi'ata de halava me'iza chivarata. A person should take a log of milk from white goat.
Has to be white?
I told you earlier, those medicine I'm familiar,
yes,
very little. רב הונא בר יהודה אמר, לייטי אתרוגה חליטה ולחקיה ולימלה דובשי ולא טובה במיללה דנורה ולכלי. Rav Huna bar Yehuda said, let one bring sweet, certain, right? Like etrog, the one we use for the arbat aminim. So you should take that etrog and make a hole on it and fit it with the honey.
Yes.
Yes, and place it among the burning coal and eat it.
This is nice.
That sounds good. It sounds tasty.
Rav Chanina amar meraglaim bnei 40 yom. He said that urine that was 40 days old is an effective remedy for several issues. Barzina lezibura, revi'ava le'akraba, palga revi'a legiluya, riva afilu lechshafim me'alu. You hold that they have some medicine for someone who get affected by either scorpion or even for witchcraft. Again, we said earlier so many times that this is ancient, we don't know.
Well, the whole thing of urine, it's interesting because it is very sterile initially, and so they actually say if you don't, like if you have burns and things like that, it's actually effective on, it isn't effective for skin ailments and so forth because it's a very good antiseptic. So there you go, so they weren't that far off.
Amar Rabbi Yochanan, anigron. Rabbi Yochanan said water that was exchanged with boil, with anigron. Like those old movie with Popeye, right? Tered. That's what they Popeye eats.
Spinach.
Yes.
Va'avangar. So they some water that combined with the grass was boiled. V'tiryaka. Me'alu ben legiluya ben lichshafim. He says that type of balsam is effective for both, for one who drank exposed water, which is again the venom fear, or the antidote for witchcraft, again. Haiman de bala hivya, if someone swallow a snake,
must be pretty desperate.
Small size. What?
The solution is interesting.
Okay. לוח לקשוטה במלחה ולרהט תלת המילה. He should feed hops in salt, and then he should be made around a distance of 3 meals. It's like they did it to us in the army. It looks like, you know.
And the snake is guaranteed to come out.
Rav Shimi bar Ashi, Chazel Lahu Gavra de Bala Chivya. It's a story that in the Talmudic time that he saw someone who swallowed a snake. Idamele ke parasha. That person who looked like a horseman. Ochle keshuta b'milka ve'areata kamei tlata milei ve'nafatnei gube gube. So he said that he fed him with hops with salt and made him run in front of him for 3 meals, and the snake come out and him in
pieces. Oh.
Again, I humbly say that it either the magic ability of the supernatural ability of the sages, or the ancient have a better formula that we know. Ika de Amr, the one that looks in my little view as more real, it's Rav Shimi bar Ashi balach chivaya, the story of Rav Shimi bar Ashi that ate this type of snake. Ata Eliyahu idmelei kefarasha. That Eliyahu Hanavi that we recite together on Motzei Shabbat, right? He appeared to him like a horseman. And then Ochle keshuta b'milta v'arate kamet latamila v'nafan b'gu b'gu. All this story that he fed him with hops and salt and made him run in front of him at 3 meals, that's part of the snake come out of pieces. That's a miracle that happened toward Eliyahu Hanavi. Haiman the tarkech kivya, God forbid if someone was bitten by a snake, laite ubara de hamara chivta, he should have the fetus of white donkey brought to him, again, ancient time, velikar and he should be torn
open,
velot ve'ilavei, and he should place it on a snake bite. But the GEMARA said, ve'anemile de lo ishtekach treifa. It's as long as this does not have a condition that will cause it to die within 12 months. That's the point of treifa. Treifa is some types of animals that something is blemish inside the body that created eventually a death. That's the third parak of Chulin. I have a lot of discussion. First halacha, Shulchan Aruch Or HaChaim, chapter 4. one must wash his hand 3 times in the morning after raising to rid the evil spirit that envelops them. That's important halacha. We say that alim en b'hem mishum refuah. The one is permitted to place leaves on a wound on Shabbat because they are now medical effect. However, it is prohibited to place leaves that are known as sehil, for example, grape leaves on one eyes. So this ruling is according to the Talmud Yerushalmi, and that's what the Rashi and Tosfot explain in the GEMARA, and it's based on Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 328. We also talk about Tzom Ta B'Yayin Chalalo. The Mishnah Berurah said, this again 328 Orach Chaim, one who has a wound that is not life-threatening may immerse it in wine on Shabbat to stop the bleeding. However, one may not immerse the wound in vinegar because the vinegar has medicinal properties. If the person is very fastidious, is a delicate, it is prohibited even to immerse the wound in wine. Now, we also said that there are exceptions like gava yad v'gava regel. If the back of one's hands or foot is wounded on Shabbat, one may treat it medically because a wound on this part of the body is considered dangerous. Rochatzim b'mei grar u'b'mei chamatan. One is permitted to bathe in hot springs on Shabbat because people do so for reasons other than healing. What we learn also, it's not obvious that one is immersed for medical purposes, a different story. We said that kol hayamim metarim bel zochalim. All seas, that's Rambam, Hilchot Mikveot, chapter 9. All seas purified both when the water is collected in one place and when the water is flowing. This ruling is according with the opinion of Rabbi Yossi, whose reasoning is accepted by the halachic authorities and whose opinion is follow dispute between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Meir. We said that rechitza b'meyam b'Shabbat. That's a question that people ask here in our city a lot. One may bathe on Shabbat in seawater that is suitable for bathing even if one's intention is medicinal. However, it is prohibited to bathe in water that is not fit for bathing or in water in which flax was soaked because it has fuel smell. However, it is permitted to enter this water if one does not remain in them, because in this case it's appear that he is entering the water merely to cool off. That's Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 328. So, for sure you could come up and say that it's not in the spirit of Shabbat, etc., which is another discussion. Ma'achalim u'mashkim lerefuah. Any food or drink that is eaten by a healthy person may be consumed by a sick person on Shabbat, even if it's medicinal value. On the contrary, food or drink that are not generally consumed by healthy people may not be consumed by a sick person on Shabbat. Nevertheless, a healthy person may eat or drink these food for his pleasure. Now, we also learn an important halacha, and that's the last halacha I would like to share with you. The whole idea of using all this formulation in the Talmud, and we said that in so many sources we mentioned today that all these healing ideas that Talmud bring to us, and it's not just in this page, it's going to be the next page and the following page. So 2 days in a row we're going to learn this type of healing. It's not by any means a formula of our practical world, but it's still the mitzvah to study this part of the Talmud.
So I have a question. Practical halachot regarding medicine on Shabbat. Nowadays, modern medicine. So for example, something like, that's probably one of the most common medicines used nowadays for controlling cholesterol or something like that, that so many people take. Now, you could argue that that's not addressing a life-threatening issue on that particular day. If you miss a day, it may not be, may not be the end of the world. Obviously, it's something you need to take on a regular basis, ongoing, to to maintain your health. Now, something like that, would it be best to not take it on Shabbat? I mean,
It's a good
the example,
question.
because certain things, like when I think about, obviously, you know, if you're talking about a diabetic, I mean, they have to have insulin, otherwise it's life-threatening, so there's no question there. But I'm talking here something that's, you know, if you miss a day, it's probably not going to make that much difference.
It's a good question. Here is the point. For example, for cholesterol, as far as I know, there are medicine that it's really need a prescription drug.
Right, they're prescription.
And there are those who are a supplement.
No, these are prescriptions.
Like
these are ones
omega-3
prescribed by a
and
doctor, yeah.
So if it's prescribed by doctor, then the question is, the doctor need to come up and tell us if missing a day makes a big difference or not.
Okay.
If the doctor said that it makes a difference, then it's a different story. But if it doesn't make a big difference, we rather skip it. Now, you may come up and say that the whole idea of shchikat samemanim or taking medicine, it may not applicable. I just pull up the pill and put it inside. But those gzeirot, those boundaries that the rabbis made, we don't touch those boundaries. So again, as I said, you have to ask the doctor to come back and tell us what's exactly the state a person have if he skipped that day.
Having grown up as the son of a doctor, I can tell you exactly what the doctor will say, and they're all trained to do this. And it's not necessarily that skipping a day will be a problem, but they will tell you not to skip a day, and that it will be a problem simply because they want people to take it on a regular basis. They don't want to think, I'll skip 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. So if you go to a doctor, unfortunately, they're going to tell you have to take it every day. You know, and if you miss a day, it's a problem. Now, whether it medically is a problem is, you know, probably not the case. So, I mean, that's, yeah.
You just gave the answer.
Yeah. Thank you.